But whether they believe it or not, that's fine. But but a lot of times truckers have some great stories too about the Route 666 and all these different places like that in Colorado and stuff. But but it is funny that now, because of the internet, people can go ahead and have campouts and meet up groups and stuff like that where they go camping in the woods. And
yeah, but see, that's where I look at, okay, like I have a paranormal, Southern Paranormal has been on my show a few times now. They're going to be on again here in June, and they are really good. I mean, they played back some good sounds that they captured on their recorder. They're in for it to investigate. Again, I have had other groups on here that, the first thing when we start talking is they kept saying that they want to be signed on a cable channel. And then I had other people wanted to be on, both ghost hunters and Bigfoot hunters want to be on my show that just want to do it to become famous. And it's a social gathering. Their friends get together and, I like one group I had on, I was going to have on. I asked them, I said, well, how long do you take to investigate? And their answer was 2 or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Well, if they only investigate 2 or 3 hours, as far as I'm concerned, they're not taking it serious.
Well, it is, but my
I'm sorry.
No, I know. My opinion. No, I agree. I agree with you. But my opinion is like gambling, right? Because I only gamble $20 at a time.
I don't even do that anymore.
I know. Well, normally back in the old days, I used to just write a check to the casino and mail it in because that way I'd save gas money.
Well, I was really hooked on gambling, but I went to a casino once back about 4 years ago, and I hit the jackpot. And as soon as I hit the jackpot, the device, went dead. Yeah. The whole bank of all the slot machines all went dead. Now, one of their employees saw that I won the $50,000. Okay? Oh. She was right there. She saw it, right? You know what they told me? They had a computer glitch, so they had to turn the computers off. And they offered me $50. That cured me really, really fast of going in. Now, I will say this. I got to know somebody one time when I was running that business in Tacoma, worked for a casino, a big casino.
Right.
And they told me some things, how the machines work and all the rhythms of all the stuff. And the odds are really coming out and winning anything.
Yeah.
You're going to win it when you first start putting money in it. After you start putting money in it, you're not going to win anything.
Yeah. Well, that's my thing. So I go there and I put in $20. If I double my money, I quit. So sometimes I'm only there for 5 minutes,
But you doubled your money. Now, if you stay there,
I know.
And if you stay there for 2 hours, you don't eat for the rest of the week. You're eating baked beans and SpaghettiOs.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness I've never been that bad. But sometimes it's like. And that's but you do find people who say I saw this. I wasn't, a lot of times you get contacted by people who have never, to be honest with you, if you're into Bigfoot, you're probably never going to contact me and ask me for my opinion on something. That's because you've got your friends, your friends like you, they trust you, and it seems like in a lot of ways in the Bigfoot world especially, whether you're credible is whether people like you or not, not actually, and so,
So in other words, if people don't like you, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, or somebody in that group don't like you, you're not going to be credible, even if you saw a Bigfoot. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm getting without saying it.
Okay.
But
I'm sorry. I told you I bring things out.
No, I'm never embarrassed about. I'm very measured in my words, Gary. There's nothing that you're going to make me say that I didn't want to say. But I might just play a little coy for a while first and make it. This is our first date.
Okay. Don't tell my wife that; she might get jealous.
but it is funny. But a lot of times people will contact you, that are in groups and things like that. But it's also interesting, and then they talk to you. But it is also interesting to deal with people who are habituators, And what I mean by that is, I think you were talking to a lady about that last week or a couple of weeks ago, where she, you were asking her about leaving food out for a Bigfoot or whatever, because, different scenarios like that. But there are certain people who, do that, and that's how they build a relationship up with whatever they're dealing with. And so to them, they almost go all the way past it. Whenever you're new and you had an experience, you're going to go on to the internet and you're sort of going to check all these other things in. And then you get to the middle part where you're an expert on everything. And then if you actually start to have sort of these habituation experiences with a creature that in some way becomes like a member of your family, then you stop talking about it on the internet anymore. That's because you don't want to make a big deal out of it. You don't want everybody in the world coming up to your property and trying to poke around looking for it. And you just want to live your peaceful life. You've made this relationship with this other group of people, and don't really care whether people are fighting about it on the internet.
Yeah. I don't care if people believe me or not, but I will say this. I have had two people on my show, or three, about Bigfoot. One was a guy that his friend had a Bigfoot. He lived out in the woods in a cabin, and rocks were being thrown at first against the side of his cabin, and then it was so bad towards the last before he boogied out, and that he said that's it. I guess he was renting it out, from somebody out there. That they would be, on the roof at night, and harassing the guy. Then again, what you're talking about with the lady, again, she had same story though. Rocks were throwing against her house at night, and it was scaring her. And then, she got this bright idea because they were stealing her. I think that was a lady. It was she had a garden, and they were stealing her vegetables and stuff out of her garden. And I think then she, at that point, if I remember right, she basically would, put everything in a box or a basket, or I can't remember what she said. And she was basically putting a care package out. They would take the care package, and occasionally they would give her a trinket, on her porch. Yeah. I kind of believe that too, because I can't say it's not true. I mean, it does make logical sense that,
Well, you find that in a lot of different places, and even in Ireland, the county I grew up in, and it's got nothing to do with Bigfoot, but it has to do with fairies, and one day we'll have to talk about how I think fairies are really aliens. But anyway,
how about leprechauns? I mean, I like, I actually have somebody that wants to be on the show that claims leprechauns are real.
Well, I'll tell you the story if you don't mind.
We got a couple minutes. Okay. I'm old enough yet. I can still hold my. Okay. I don't have to run in the bathroom yet.
We've been talking, and we both probably have full bladders. So I'll try to make this. So my story about whenever I was a child, it goes like this. Now, I grew up in a village. I have to give a little bit of a backstory, but anyway, I grew up in this village where, in Ireland, that is like it's on the site of a Neolithic, site, so people have been living there for 5,000 years. Probably, I'm still related to everybody.
Probably you are.
Lived there for instead of a family tree, we had a telephone pole, went straight up. So, so we, as far as that goes, up the hill from where I lived, there was a pagan standing stone. There was a lot of different stones around, and a lot of the people in the family had supposedly been, the last of the druids, before they were told not to do that anymore, which is actually happened around the, 1124 or something like that. Well, as with a lot of different different cultures. You know, a lot of people agree to becoming, you know, Christian without actually giving up the old ways. And so this is why you get a lot of these other stories about, you know, fairies and changelings and things like that. And there's a lot of different familiarities between fairy stories and UFO abduction stories, which is interesting. And in a lot of ways, you know, they've got the same scenarios, which is, you know, you can look back to the old days where, and what I mean by fairy, I don't mean Disneyfication of fairy. I mean basically leprechauns are fairies, and, you know, giants are, you know, elemental spirits. You know, see what I'm saying there?
Yes,
not pixies. And so it could be anything there. And so you can get a big sort of hairy being with red eyes. Well, not big, but like 2-3 tall, called a puka. A puka can also turn into, you know, a horse with red eyes and things like that. But, you know, so we were talking about that, and we were never ever discouraged from believing that was real. You see, I think that's one of those things where as you grow up, you know, there's a certain point in time where people say to you, okay, well, you know, it's nice that you're talking to your little friend now, but, you know, you've got, you know, stop doing that because that's not acceptable anymore. Well, what I was from, it was totally acceptable to do whatever you wanted to, you know. That was not sort of thought as weird. And so, but going back to the UFO thing, so you could read stories about leprechauns flying around in cauldrons, you know, picking people up off the ground and then you know, abducting them, and they'd come back several days later, or they'd come in and abduct your child or abduct your wife, and your wife would come back pregnant with a changeling baby or something like that. So, I mean, if you look at this from that standpoint, you could say that documented alien abduction stories, if you agree with me that fairies or leprechauns or whatever you want to say, which whenever I saw what I saw in the woods was a 2 to 3 foot gray-green being with no clothes on, with black eyes, popping around a tree. Now, this was before Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so this was the early 70s.
Yeah, before internet. Long before internet.
And so, you know, I had before then, you know, my main reference to what an alien looked like was anything from Star Trek, or, you know, My Favorite Martian, or, you know, was, you know, like that they look humanoid with antenna. Remember when everything had an antenna?
Oh yeah, Martians with the antennas, and big bulky eyes.
Yeah. So this thing was not like anything I'd ever seen before, and basically what would happen is that our family had been going up to this tree in the forest and been giving these, you know, they used to give it honey, little bits of honey in an acorn cup, and they would put it outside this tree. And my aunt, for 2 generations before then, had been doing that. And, you know, whenever I said to, and I don't know why my mom ever took me up there, to be honest with you, because she never said that she ever saw the thing. But she had known that the other people in the family had seen it and described it to her. And I think she was curious and wanted to see it. But then I saw it, and then I started to have sort of lost time scenarios as well, where, you know, like I said before, in Ireland, it doesn't get dark until really late. And there was an old army base up behind the village. It was kind of interesting because the 2nd Ranger Battalion in the U.S. Army used to actually do a lot of training in Northern Ireland before it went to France. And that was one of their bases up there. So we used to go up there and try to poke around, see if we could find anything as far as that goes. And I would come home hours later and not feel like there was any, you know, thing. And this is an Irish expression taken by the fairies and away with the fairies and everything like that. Well, So that was one of those things where, you know, you can